Welcome back, Heat Seekers. It is your Week 11 wide receiver tiers. Let's get you some wins this week. That being said, smash that like button if you always enjoy the content. Drop comments below if you have comments. And Denver and LA are both on bye this week, so you are going to be missing out on some key wide receivers. But let's get you some wins here. Some big names here at the top. We saw Diggs had a boom game in Week 10. How you feeling about this tier, Kraig?
Yeah, I think it's probably for the most part what people would think. Bengals are back after a bye, I believe they had in week 10, going against Vegas, who we just saw get thrown all over Kansas City. Tyreek Hill going against Dallas. Davante Adams facing Minnesota. CeeDee Lamb against KC. And like you said, Diggs, he's facing Indianapolis this week. So they all have nice matchups and are going to have that potential to go off. So I'm liking the tier.
Any concern with these top six? Do we feel like any of them have regression potential? Amari stands out to me as one that it's hard to trust on a week in and week out basis right now, as we don't exactly know what we're going to get out of him, it seems like, depending on how the offense rolls. But is there anyone here that's concerned for you?
DeAndre, certainly there's some level of concern. He's coming off of nagging injury issue. Kyler has been out, and we're going to have to see if he's back or who the quarterback is, because Colt got hurt, and we're not sure, maybe they're on their third string quarterback, and we're going to have that potential for that offense to just spreads the ball around, just running more than a lot of people would hope. It's not this just constant pass-heavy offense like Cliff Kingsbury had in college. There's some concern for me that DeAndre isn't going to end up as a top 6 wide receiver, but that's really it other than Amari. Like you said, Amari's had a lot of up and down sort of weeks, and I think that probably continues as we see Lamb take over that wide receiver 1 role for Dallas this year.
Agreed. All right. I like this tier a lot. I have questions about Aiyuk, probably even Lockett as Russ is getting back. There's a couple names here, but what are you thinking about this tier? Is there anything that really stands out to you as something to be cautious of as a wide receiver 1?
Yeah, you had mentioned some of these. Aiyuk I didn't personally have in this tier, which is fine. This is a consensus. It's not just Kraig and Brad giving you our opinions on these things. Who else here? We've talked about this week in and week out, but you're probably not getting it out of all 3 of the Tampa Bay guys. Which one does it end up being? We'll have to sit back and find out. That a lot of it depends on who's healthy, as we've seen lately. And what that offense does. Tom Brady hasn't looked like the Tom Brady we've been accustomed to for so long. Here is it a situation where maybe he's finally regressing. They're playing the Giants this week. Giants have given up a lot of points. They are coming off a bye here, so we'll have to see how it plays out. But I would suspect we'll probably get 1 and maybe 2 of those guys that actually end up in this tier. Situation with Lockett and Theilen that you always have, where they're the number 2 guys basically in their offense for fantasy production, and are they going to be able to hit that level along with their partner in crime? Probably not. And we're going to have to see what happens with that Pittsburgh offense that Diontae wasn't featured 2 weeks ago against Detroit as far as getting that production, and then it was just a mess against
Mason
the Lions.
Mason Rudolph's in there. It's bad news for all Steelers.
So, yeah, there's a number of these guys that I have some concerns over. But do they have that upside? We had DeVonta Smith down a couple tiers for a while, and then he came back and he's had 2 just huge games in a row here. So, that's why you're seeing him up in this conversation again.
Absolutely. All right, wide receiver 2, what are we looking at? I have one question about this entire tier. Now, obviously, some of these guys, there are wide receiver 1s in this group that have produced that way this year. This week, this is how we feel about these guys. But the question I have, as we were working through this tier and as we're talking through this tier, the one name that stood out to me the most in the entirety of this thing was Mike Williams. Mike Williams is a guy that had been extremely hot. How do you feel about him? Obviously, this week we have him as a wide receiver 2, but do you feel like this is a guy that could boom or bust, or do you feel like this is just not a great matchup for him?
Pittsburgh, I think, is a fine matchup. What they've run into is they've been having offensive line protection issues for Herbert, where they're just getting more pressure. They're having trouble running the ball, which has just led to less efficient, less productive offense for the Chargers. You're seeing it in Justin Herbert's numbers not being what they were. So until that really gets figured out, I think that will have an effect on where he falls. Certainly he is capable of booming. We know that from what we've seen with him and in that offense. I don't know that it's going to be this week. The Steelers still have been able to effectively rush the passer when it isn't going against a great offensive line, which is right now producing that way. And this probably is where I'd be comfortable saying his ceiling is for this week. Started off the season great. Hasn't been that way now. I'd want to see more production, more consistency out of him before throwing him back up in one of those higher tiers.
Who is the one guy that you feel strongest about this week that would produce out of the flex group?
I really like the wide receivers. Kendrick Bourne has shown a lot recently how that offense has started to operate, and I feel really comfortable playing him. Thursday night, it's a short turnaround, but the Patriots have been performing really well. And born against Atlanta, we saw what Dallas was able to do against that Atlanta team. I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but clearly Mac Jones is understanding and feeling that offense. They're productive. They're getting it done. I really like him out of this group. If I had to pick another one, Marcus Johnson stepping in as the number 2 wide receiver here with Julio going to IR and a lot of attention on A.J. Brown with the running game faltering. An interesting one, Robbie Anderson out of nowhere invigorated by the change in that offense there. So he had been getting targets to begin with, and he's getting playing time. So if he continues to get that and he starts feeling where he fits in that offense, I think he's a nice guy that you can put in here that really has potential to boom even more.
All right. So, sleepers. There's a lot of sleepers there, folks. If you have specific start-sit questions, Sunday morning, the team is live. We'll help you get those answered. If you have Thursday night stuff, jump in the Discord, hit us up on Twitter. We'll see you later.